good night to who everyone see it. Remember, this show is like going to the best Michelin star restaurant in the town, no matter where you are. We are going in to discover some topic people don't talk so much about, and we're going deep into it. And today I'm back with my amazing star to talk the control of our children as a parents. And the hook is, are you ready to take your responsible to be a better parent? Or you're struggling as a parent, then you should really listen and stay tuned to this show because it's going to be very amazing what we're going to tell you about how we actually today in 2025 can be much better parents. And we are both parents. I am parents to two adult children, and Andrea is parents to two small. So in that way, we have the best both way, and we both have know we can do it different for our children. So welcome, stay tuned, and be in our show. And I'm so grateful for whoever listened to us. So welcome, Andrea. I'm so grateful you are in my show again today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah,
So I think you should start with some topic, and we're going there from because
yeah,
our show is very authentic. So I think you
yeah,
should. You always have an idea to what you want. You are the guest.
yeah. Okay. I wanted just to make a brief introduction where we just zoom out a little bit from the childhood and the parenting before we really go into it. Because currently, right now, I have two jobs, and I both work with children and with adults. So I just wanted to briefly mention how they are different to work with, different contexts, yeah, and how we can approach it, and then we can go into the the children and how to be best with them.
Yeah, but it's good you're saying this with briefing because that's something we're gonna talk about in the show also.
Mm. And I think with adults, it's about the word is about alignment. When you are with adults, or if you work with adults, uh, that's the adult context. But if you work with children, then I think the word here is getting in line. And so we can maybe explore those two very different contexts. And
Mm,
just briefly about adults, if you are centered, if you work with adults, and if you are a whole person, then just the presence of this wholeness will bring up everything that is not whole in the relationship, so it can become whole again. And so an alignment will start to happen slowly, where the whole the whole energy field will sort of bring the not whole energy field up, and so they can become aligned at a certain point. And I think that's basically what good therapy is. Psychotherapy is that you're just being yourself, and then people get attracted to this self, being yourself, and then they can also, over time and with work, also become themselves. So you really don't have to do much here, other than be yourself, basically. Yeah.
so
And
you
so,
more hold you
yeah,
are with yourself. So more so to understand. So more hold you are with yourself.
yeah,
Mm,
you bring everyone else into the same wholeness. And what you work with is not wholeness or not wholeness, but what you work with is are the obstacles or the blockages that comes
mm,
up in the transition from not being whole to being whole.
mm.
And then you just work with it. Okay, do you have a block in your chest? Do you have a block in your throat? Wherever, whatever it can be, you just work with that.
Mm.
and then it happens automatically. Like if like water, everything in the ocean wants to seek its own level. So yeah, so you just step out of the way of that. Um, and but so let's just take the adult context and let's just put it to the side. I just wanted to mention it so we can see how it's different from when we now go into how to actually work with children, because children are a little bit different than adults.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, and
Yes,
as yeah, and as you mentioned, we both have children and know a little bit about that. And I think so adults and children are fundamentally different uh, because children are not like small adults. They are something in and of themselves, and so we need to approach them in a different way than we would approach adults. Because with adults, we know that okay, if this is a normal functioning adult, then we have all the social conditioning and orderly, and we have our personalities and all of that we have in common. So we are starting from this baseline of adulthood. Uh, uh, but with children, it's a bit different because they are in the formation of these early things. Their personality are being formed. It's not complete yet. It's being formed, and so on. And a lot could go wrong here, and it does go wrong in the families. I see sometimes.
mm.
Uh, yeah, so
I
I
think
just wanted,
it's
yeah,
always, I think it's almost always. I never have met any family who have a good, and that's what I hope I see before I go away from this earth.
yeah. So
I
maybe we can go. Yeah,
have never met anyone who I can say I have not been with your family like I only have been with you, but else I never have needed. So I
yeah,
still look forward to meet a family where I
yeah.
say, wow.
Yeah, so maybe we can talk a little bit about now going into the childhood context and see there's so many places where you can go wrong here, so
But do
many
you want to make
pitfalls.
yes, do you want to make a little short briefing exercise before we do that or
Yeah, yeah, we can do that if you want.
mm.
Yeah,
No, I think you're talking about that in the beginning or you want to do a little briefing exercise. You want to do that or you want to just talk?
maybe we can do it a little bit later.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
we do that, yes.
yeah. So I think with children, the word here was that they basically have to get in line. But what exactly does that mean? Because that can mean a lot of different things in different contexts. And I think when children are inherently have an element of chaos because they are at the early stages of their development. And so we have at the level of the ego, we have chaos. So the core of the ego is this chaotic little child that if it doesn't get its needs met, it would just throw a tantrum and destroy everything. And yeah, so that's an element of early childhood development. And then we have the level of lower mind, which is basically about control. So when we have this chaotic child, it will always attract a certain degree of trying to control it. So control and chaos are, are like mirror images of each other. That you cannot have chaos without control, and you cannot have control without chaos. So the more you try to control things, the more chaotic they will become, and the more chaotic they become, the more you will try to control things, and you can just go on forever in this spiral here.
Okay, can we
Uh,
do it so people understand it? So
yeah,
because like hear you say like example like so if a child is like I always say like why did we put this thing in the mouth when they're crying because they're actually crying for because they want to say something so then we are controlling when we're putting how you call that in English? A dump, or what do you call them when you're putting?
Yeah, pacifier.
Yeah, what do you call shoot for English? I don't know.
Yeah, passive. It's called a pacifier in English. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so when you pacify, then you actually already control there. Is that true?
yeah.
What I
Exactly.
mm, just
It
so.
is a form of control. Yeah, that's right.
Mm,
So we have two archetypes here. We have the child, which is the chaotic element, and then we have the control, which is the parental element. And so there's a power struggle between chaos and control. And so what we can see now, that we can see that different households have different variations of how much does the chaos part uh, take up space, and how much does the control part take up space. And so what we in the olden days we called forkælede børn, children who always get what they want.
spoily children, spoily.
Yeah, exactly.
Spoily. Yeah, yeah.
um,
That's a
that
strange word. I never have
that
understand
that
that.
that that that's a household or context which is characterized by the parents not wanting to take control, not wanting to take the parental uh, authority onto themselves, and just going over into the chaos and supporting the chaos, uh, and yeah, and heightening the chaos and putting the children in charge of that particular household. And so now we have one type of household, which can be called the chaotic household, where there are really no firm boundaries or rules, or everything is just impulse based, and the responsibility in this household is put onto the children, who cannot take responsibility because they are children.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, so now we already have one type of we can call it maybe dysfunctional childhood upbringing. But then we can also see there's also another possibility here, which is about the parents taking too much control in order to try to quell the chaos in the children and suppress it.
Mm.
Uh, and this household is characterized by too many rules, and this unhealthy respect for the parents. We can talk a little bit about what respect actually means, but this is the unhealthy version about respect, where respect means that you have to fear your parents, that you have to be fearful of them because they can punish you with shame and guilt, and other things, if they just when they see fit. So these are households where the parental authority is taken to too many extremes, and there too much authority, and the children don't get to be children. They don't get to be chaotic. They only get to be, almost like little robots that have to be very polite and say, "Okay, how are you doing?" and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the authoritarian childhood home. So now we have the
Mm.
chaotic and the authoritarian childhood home. And then we also have a third one, which is we can maybe call it the bipolar childhood home, where the childhood home are swinging between too much chaos and too much control. And the children don't know, they know it instinctively, but it can be like one day, on Monday it's a chaotic home, and then on a Tuesday it's a controlling home, and then we go back and forth and back and forth.
It depends on the parents. Like if the mom
Yeah,
like the one who do what you want, and the other is the dad is the one. Hello, hello.
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, again, just this small thing you say already there. I get scary, and there is no license for get parents.
yeah, exactly,
Because
yeah,
again, when I hear what you say, I hear already all these parents are children also
yeah, that's
in the
exactly
mom
correct.
and dad.
Yeah, and that all of these three contexts, different contexts, the thing that they have in common is that the children don't get to be children, and the parents don't get to be real parents. These are all pseudo childhoods with no clear parenting and no clear childhood. So it's a kind of childhood lost in a way. And so when you grow up from one of these three childhoods, there's a lot of grief here because you should have had a childhood. You should have allowed to be a child, and the parents should have allowed to be real parents and adults, but it didn't happen. So there's something that was lost that was supposed to be there, and this is what they all have in common. These three dysfunctional childhood home types. Yeah, yeah,
And then what about the children where the parents don't, like in my example, like um, just have to take care of myself, or is that also
yeah,
a different voice as a like you
yeah.
can
That's yeah.
you can do whatever you want, like it's the
Yeah,
same.
that's a neglectful childhood home, and I would put that in the third one.
Mm.
Instead of calling it bipolar, another version of it would be the neglectful, where the parents are just simply shunning all parental responsibility and just saying, "I'm not really your parent." Basically, that's what they are sub-communicating to the children. You're on your own. So that's basically like being an orphan. You don't really have any parents at all, even though you have parents. In most cases, you have real parents, but it's basically like you're an orphan to it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Interesting. Yes, yes. Yeah,
yeah,
and then of course there is some parents in somehow, because then you have your grandmom, granddad, or you have some
yeah.
other. There will always be like some adult who going in, and but
Mm,
most of the time, and that is the problem when you get parents too early. My parents was 19, so they were
yeah,
teenagers. So
mm,
the only was on the end of being teenager. So
yeah. So yeah,
mm,
so
mm,
if we return to this mantra that was it's about children, they have to get in line, and we take it and put it onto these three different childhood homes, then you can say that in the chaotic home, the parents uh, are not able to at all get the children in line. The children are just allowed to run amok, basically. In the authoritarian child where there's too much control, uh, the children are being put too much in line, and in the neglectful childhood home, the children are the parents. There's no line at all. The parents they don't have any line at all because they're not really adults at all. There's no
mm,
shade of adult in them. And
mm,
so when we're talking about children have to get in line, a lot of people they worry that we are actually in the authoritarian, dysfunctional childhood home because a lot of people come from those types of home. So if you come from that type of home, you become you when you grow up and become an adult yourself, you will most likely have a very critical inner parent voice that always tells you you're not doing it good enough. You have to do better, better, better. And there's this pacing always. And there can also be very strong feelings of resentment and anger towards authority figures because it's really the father and the mother here who are too authoritarian and too unfair in their treatment of the children. And so life becomes kind of a struggle. And you have to struggle against maybe your boss, or maybe the prime minister, because you project these unfair parental figures onto other external figures when you grow up, and so you have to fight them, or maybe become very obedient and be very sort of yes sir, yes ma'am, and those kinds of things. And so
yeah, that's
we are
why
not,
the world is
yeah,
going wrong. Yeah, I see it completely when you see it like again there. I mean, there have come a revolution about this. It's
yeah,
with
yeah.
all
So
the
so
knowledge we
yeah,
have in 2025. There must be a revolution now about hey, because we're keeping doing this. We're growing up,
yeah.
and then
We
we
do
do it
keep doing this.
again.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
growing up, and we do it again.
Yeah, that's right. We do keep doing this. We can keep replaying it over and over and over. Yeah, and And so when we're talking about getting the children in line, I just want to make very clear that we're not talking about the authoritarian childhood home, because that's what a lot of people assume, because that's what they know in their experience from their own childhood homes. But I'm actually talking about something completely different, and this is something that's, in a way, it's quite new. It's both quite new, and you can also find it throughout history, but it is to go beyond this polarity of chaos and control, because there's much more to life than chaos and control.
There is
Chaos and
not.
control, yeah, is human infancy. We are in the early stages of human development, where you're struggling with themes of chaos and control, and but there is something above it, and this is something that's based in integrity and trust and cooperation, and that's what we can call order.
Yeah, yeah, because
Uh, yeah,
coming out is a chaos. Coming out from the stomach is a chaos for you.
yes, very much. Yeah, from the subconscious impulses of
Yeah,
children. Yeah,
and
yeah.
what people not aware also, actually, when you are in the stomach, you can actually already be in the chaos there also,
Mm,
because the child can hear everything. It's just the water
mm,
was around
yeah,
this baby. So already how you interact in your homes,
yeah,
actually already making
yeah,
this child what they coming out of gonna be or it's gonna
yeah.
be oh it's scary.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and the nervous system of the child is already primed to the specific type of household, because it has been fed the mother's stress hormones. If she's very stressed, then it goes into the womb and into the baby, and it's this nervous system is being built upon stress hormones. If it's a very chaotic childhood home that the baby is being born into. So yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah. So I just wanted to outline this subconscious pseudo childhood homes in order for us to take a step further and see, okay, what does a healthy childhood home actually look like? And so we have to step up into order, and order does not have an opposite. Whereas chaos will always attract control, because control is the opposite of chaos, and vice versa. Chaos is the opposite of control. But order does not have an opposite. And so I think we can maybe go into that a little bit. So, because order does not have an opposite, it can contain both, it can be bigger than and contain both chaos and control within it, and still keep everything in order. And now we're actually getting closer to understanding what children have to get in line means. So children have to get into a fair and balanced order, which can both hold the chaos of the subconscious and the subsequent controlling behavior of the pseudo parental figures. And then when you have gone through it, can step up into a higher order, and that would be when the children are moving out of the house. They should be able to go into this order and then become real adults themselves, not parental control freaks, but actual adults, balanced whole adults.
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, so children go from chaos to control, and then they can go into order when they become adults themselves, if it has been a successful upbringing. And in this kind of upbringing, there is no loss of sense of self. There is no grief here, because you get to be chaotic when you're very small. Now I'm talking about 2 to 5 years old. You get to be a little control freak when you're 6 to 10 or whatever. You get to be, then the chaos comes up again in when you get to be a teenager, because everything changes, and now hormones are coming up, and so chaos comes up, and then control again. and then maybe you can go on to something which we could call maybe true adulthood. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the fourth type of home, which we can could be called the orderly home.
Mm.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I don't know. I'm very shocked over how I see we was a pure child who get born, but we actually not because we already are born
Yeah,
into something who,
yeah, yeah,
who
and yeah,
and
exactly.
again some say we choose our parents.
Yeah, and we do that. I just wanted to say we do that.
Yeah,
Be-
yeah.
we are intersecting with a certain type of parents group because in this childhood home, this is the best learning opportunities for
Mm.
us. So we
Yeah, and
choose it, or yeah,
yes,
we
but they
take it
still
upon
don't not
ourselves. Yeah,
they still don't not
and then we
believe it.
go on again onto our
Mm,
individual journey. But there is
mm,
this 18 to 20 years overlap where we are in this family structure home,
mm,
which can be one of the four types, and then we go on to something else, our own individual journey. So it's
mm,
actually only, it puts a little less emphasis on a successful childhood home when you see it in a larger context. Childhood becomes a little less significant. Then we tend to give it a little too much credit. Then it
mm,
actually it influences us to a great degree, but not to as much a degree as we actually think, because there are also karmic forces operating in the background, which are sort of independent upon these childhood homes. So you can come from any of these dysfunctional childhood homes, and then you can. There's no problem. You can become an adult if you just do a little work with other adults. So we are not as trapped in our childhood as we maybe sometimes think we are. Yeah, yeah.
mm. Yeah, yeah, we can let go of it, and we
We
have
can.
to,
Yeah.
and we have to, as I say, we have to go in and learn. Okay, my parents was in that
Mm,
situation, and but I just want to say there's someone who not believe we are choose parents, just so because there's someone who not believe in that somewhere. So just we believe in it and we accept if you not believe, but we still get born in a family, like no matter what.
mm,
So and all the things, as you say, it's like something we have to learn. But when we get in the 20s, 30s, we can
mm.
start stepping back and say, okay, I don't like this word, like they don't know better, but that's the only words like I have in English, like it's they could only operate from that stage they
Yes.
were.
Exactly.
But then I still mean it's time now to make a revolution of operate from,
Mm. Yeah.
to learn
Sure.
to
Yeah.
operate from.
Yeah.
It has to be like a, don't know if a law, but it have to be, you have to be like some rules for getting parents. You must cleansing yourself up and then you can get
Mm.
parents.
Mm.
Because we should do that for our children. If what one thing we could learn, and I can learn from my childhood and from my as a mom, that is okay. I have learned all that, and it's time to say, okay, with all my knowledge, it's time to give it back and say, okay,
Mm.
I have seen all
Yeah.
this now, and now is the time to tell everyone it don't have to be this way
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
because
I think that's a very good thing to do. Yeah.
yeah,
To yeah,
because
just put it out there. Yeah.
yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That.
so,
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
because and that's why we have this show today. I'm gonna make more show about children because I can see it needed in the world. Like this other
Mm.
topic we also talk about. I hear the sensual vitality is also needing because that also
Mm.
connected to the children and
Mm.
all that. So
Mm.
keep telling more. It's so exciting to hear about.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to return to the what you called this video. It was something about bullies, leaders, and how you raise your children. And so I
Mm.
just wanted to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what a bully actually is,
Mm.
because this is also something that I have seen in my work.
Really,
Of
that's
course, of
what
course.
I want to ask you to talk about because I am
Yeah,
like, where is this starting from?
yeah, exactly. It's starting now. So if we return to chaos and control, so what a bully is in its essence is that a bully is a control freak that only understands force. So a bully is a child who comes from a childhood home with parents who have not been able to take upon the parental responsibilities in an adequately good enough way. And so the child becomes extremely anxious because the parents are not playing the role of the parents. And so the child is always trying to go over and try to play the role of the parents for the parents because the parents cannot do it in a good enough way. And so the child, from anxiety, from a foundational level of anxiety, tries to go up and become more than it is. And this often happens as a way of the child makes itself larger than it is. So it goes kind of out of body and tries to be bigger than it is. And this is all anxiety based because there are no real trust in the child parental relationship. And so the child takes on the role as the parent, and that gives it even more anxiety because the child cannot be a parent. Only the adults can be parents. Uh, and then, so this is what is happening in the childhood home. And then when the child goes to school or goes to an after school project, the child is stuck in this role of playing a pseudo parent and then tries to parent all the other children, and tries to control everything. So you have maybe a child who's maybe 7 or 8 or 9 years old who has boosted its own energy up and is anxiously trying to control everyone around it, by using force, by saying this is my will and I enforce it upon you. Uh, and that's a bully. And a bully always attracts counterforce because force always attracts counterforce. And so now we have the recipe for actually a war in a childhood group where we have the bully who maybe has some people on the bullies team, and then we have the counter bullies who are reacting to the bullies. And now they can go, and if there are no real adults who can go in and try to soften this warfare here, childhood warfare, then it would just escalate and become more and more extreme. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
so that
I'm
yeah,
already in the kindergarten, you. So that it's
yeah. It
also
can already happen.
something to
Yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah,
but it is something to do with how the parents are home then.
yeah. Exactly,
Oh my God.
exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
coming down to, oh my God.
And
So,
so now we return once again to this: children have to get in line. So how do you deal with a bully if I'm an adult and I
mm,
see a bully at my after school project? I have to enforce respect into the child, because if the child sees everything through his or her anxiety lens, so everything is dangerous. The world is a dangerous place, and you have to be the strongest, or otherwise you will die. That's basically the dichotomy that the bully is living under. It's either I win or I die. So there are no room for negotiations, rationale. No, it's just survival of the fittest context. So I am, as an adult, cannot talk to this child. I have to talk through strength. So I have to show this child. So if the child is a physical bully, I have to show the child that I'm physically stronger, and I am physically stronger than an 8-year-old boy or girl. So I just have to show it because I am it already. If it's social bullying, I have to show that I understand, I am stronger socially than the child. If it's
how do
psychic
you,
bully, if it's psychic bullying, like for instance, shame attacks, guilt attacks, social exclusion and mind control and stuff like that. And that's a kind of more a feminine bully. Well, a masculine bully is more like physical bullying, but it can also be feminine bullying, which is more about social exclusion. And it's harder to see because it's more in the shadows than masculine bullying, which is more direct. Yeah, and so I have to show that I'm stronger in the psychic field than these children. And then if I show them this, then if I show them this, the first thing that happens is their anxiety increases because the only way of decreasing their anxiety was to bully everyone else. So it's an anxiety reducing mechanism that hurts everyone else in the group. And so if I say no and I put a boundary in, I show that I'm physically, socially, and psychically stronger than you because I'm an adult, then the anxiety will start to increase because now they don't have any, now they are being thrown into, now I'm going to die basically. Because in a childhood's perspective, the adult is taking away my only defense mechanism against this feeling of doom and impending doom that I'm going to die in a moment. Uh, so yeah. So another way of saying it that this child is always in a panic attack basically and trying to come out of it but cannot. But then if I keep on doing it and I keep on, then all of a sudden a change will happen in the child, and the child would realize that okay, now there's an actual adult in my life. My parents weren't adults. My teacher, the other adults weren't adults. But now there's an actual adult that wants to take these power struggles, and then sooner or later, and it can be a little later if it's really severe bullying, the child will get in line under the adult and will start, instead of fighting the adult, will start to emulate the adult. And now the child is has shifted lanes out of being a bully and starts to become a normal child, which can have a normal child and which can start to grow up through chaos control, and then maybe also someday actually become an adult themselves. But it can only happen if there are actual adults in the room that does not bully them in return or does not allow the bullying to happen, but which sets firm boundaries and shows that I'm actually stronger than you. And then something actually positive, you can break the bullying pattern and put the child into a new lane where they can actually start to grow up and not
Yeah,
just become adult bullies, but become real adults.
but
Yeah.
but where is that happen?
I do it.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
it.
you do it, but how many have you in the place? So
Yeah.
so that's actually, so all these children, they are set up in a prison for something they don't actually know why they're doing.
They don't know why they do it. That's exactly correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
exactly
they
correct. They're
being
just
like
acting
put
it
in
out.
a prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but when they're learning, let's say in the kindergarten or in the school garden or how it's like
Yeah.
if they're learning there, but they're coming home and the parents still are shit.
Yeah.
So will they not? How will they could interact like?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes it more complicated. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. But it's
that's why you always have like, Peter
yeah.
is the leader, Malene is the leader, or
Exactly.
Katie,
Yeah.
or
But I can see it in some of the children. I can actually see them change appearance when they start to go into a new lane. I can see them become lighter, and then they
but
will go home and then will interact with less anxiety in the childhood home with their parents, and then things can happen. But the first thing that needs to happen is someone, and it doesn't matter who it is. It's the father. It's someone that works, or it's a teacher or whatever. There needs to be someone that breaks the bullying and violent pattern, and says,
mm,
"No, you cannot go further from here. I won't allow violence here." Uh,
no, these
yeah,
allow violence and all the bad words and whatever they do, like. But how can they be so? So not the word is not how. So they already going to be like that because they're coming into this chaos or control from the beginning. So that creating them to be mean and
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
scary. It's like
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
whole new we. It's very scary. So so um, but
Mm.
still, when they're going home and they still are with someone who then they still then they will always be in a bridge all the time or so then
I,
they again are back
yeah.
to parents have to go to something before they get parents because
That's not what I'm seeing.
mm,
I'm seeing that, and again, we have to be very careful what we're talking about. Are we talking about a household where the parents are psychopaths? Then we're
mm,
talking about something very extreme, where yes, then maybe you cannot do anything, maybe. But most households, the parents want the best for their children. So if they see, if they and they can instinctively sense this, my child, they can sense, is my child getting better, is my child staying the same, or is my child getting worse? And if the child is getting better because they are going to school, because they're going to an after school project, it would lessen the anxiety and burden, and maybe also overwhelm of the parents, because the child now gets lighter and easier to deal with. So a lot of these households, I get the sense that maybe, let's say, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a structural collapse in the household. The parents simply became overwhelmed. They wanted to be the best parents they could be when the child was born, and when the child was conceived, and when they were thinking about or visualizing how is my child going to grow up. They don't visualize a bully. 99% of people don't visualize a bully, or these things. They visualize a happy, normal child who loves going to school and have friends and all that. So what happens? So what happens normally is that the parents get overwhelmed with stress and diseases and everything else, and sooner or later their system simply collapses. And so now they can't be real parents to their children. And so after this collapse, if we go back forward in time, let's say 4 or 5 years, so the children and the parents have been living in a state of collapse, family collapse, for maybe 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, how many years. So now the child has been abandoned in this collapse for so many years. So the child has gone so much out of on the wrong path, and the parents are still hopeless, and they're frustrated and angry and resentful, and this is not what they wanted to happen. So something has been lost here. Again, we can return to this. So there's also a lot of grief here. Something has been fundamentally lost, and that was the idea of the perfect family that has collapsed, and now something else has taken it. We can also call it depression, anxiety and depression. So now we're living in this collapsed family structure, with no life, and that's what the children are surviving in as best as they can, basically. Yeah.
oh my god. So how can we change that? It
Yeah.
sounds so crazy, but
You
that's what
when
I think. I was reading this book called The Brief, The Forgotten Art of Briefing. And
Yes,
then I
that. Yeah.
actually read if the children keep, as we talk about in another show, we're briefing from the stomach, but we will go a little deeper into it again. You have to tell people. But I actually read if they learn to keep briefing, if from kindergarten they have like a briefing sessions in the kindergarten, they can actually resolve the trauma by themselves
Mm,
with
maybe.
the
Yeah.
brief.
Yeah. Yeah. They can
Because
breathe it
that
out.
will,
Yeah.
yeah, because they keep breathing
Yeah.
from the stomach, and we actually have to close our mouth much more. We actually have to learn to breathe from the nose.
Yeah, I think that's very important, because when we're talking about chaos and we're talking about control, we are below the level of the human body. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm coming from chaos, then my body is just a chaos agent. I go gamble, or I drink too much alcohol. I just, everything is just impulse driven. There's no respect for the body here.
Mm-hmm.
If I come from control, and I'm an adult, I'm controlling adult. It's about controlling the body always. So again, there's no respect for the body here. It's
Mm-hmm.
about how beautiful can I make myself, the appearance out to be, and all that. There's a whole industry devoted to that.
Mm-hmm.
Clothes and makeup and hair and all that, plastic surgery, all that. But if we go into a more orderly thing, then we actually start to interact with our physical bodies with a kind of respect, a real respect, not a fear of the body, but respect in the healthy way, which is about um, it's about spectating. The word respect comes from being a spectator. So you're witnessing the body as it actually is, not as you want it to be. And then you start to discover all these amazing things, that you have a muscular system, that you have a respiratory system, and the breath has its own. You're not manipulating and controlling the breath, but you're trying to deepen the breath into the body, and opening up the body more and more as it is, when it's not in this anxiety mode or anger mode or shame mode all the time. And yes, then I think you're actually absolutely right that if you start to doing this, you can start to release some of all this tension in the body where the trauma is stored. But there have to be this overarching order, which is fair, which is also kind of neutral in a way, which does not disproportionately benefits some members of the family, and not other members of the family. It has to be an orderly order. And then, yes, I think all of these things will happen automatically. The children will breathe more easily, because everything starts to lift. This trauma vibe starts to lift up, and there becomes more room just to be yourself. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I reading it. I only read 70 patches. I'm shocked over how much that is something who are forgotten.
Mhm.
And already just for this 70 side I have read, it's like 300 side. I mean, so how much I already have realized. This is really, I have do breathing for many years now
Mhm.
with myself, with Wenhoff, also his breathing
Mhm.
exercise is also amazing. So, and that's why I discovered this with children must learn. And then you learn me, and someone else learn me. We actually born with breathing from the stomach,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we in somehow suddenly breathing up here, or
Yeah.
most even not breathe here, the breathing here or here.
Yeah. Oh, up here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
and
can,
out
it can
from
get,
the mouth,
yeah. If there's a
and
lot
then
of grief in the body, the
and
breath
it's
will get
creating
stuck
so
here in
much
the
sickness
throat. Yeah.
also, and it also creating so much sickness.
Yeah.
I
Definitely. Yeah.
read breathing can affect your teeth even.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's really, so that should be something should be in the kindergarten from
Mm.
2 years. Um,
Mm.
they should do every day so they could actually heal themselves.
Mm.
Meditation, things like that,
Mm.
in a playing meditation
Mm.
way. Mm. So,
Yeah.
so all are just, so all chaos is just creating from one chaos to another chaos.
Yeah.
Is
It
that
can be like
correct?
that. Yes.
No, but all this who happen in the school or in the
Yeah.
kindergarten, it's coming from chaos in the home,
Mm.
basically. Like,
Mm.
of course, there's some who can't be born with some DNA.
Mm.
They are crazy from the beginning. But
Mm.
and then again, as you say, if parent get lost, but why is it
Mm.
want to support the parents?
Mm. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
parents need to have support.
Yeah.
But what you say about like parents, but I see when my children was going to school, when I say, hey, let's have a meeting and sit and talk about our children. there was not so many who want to do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, we must help each other too. When I
Mm.
was in my children's school, they always asked me to be what do you call it? Children minister. And
Okay. Yeah.
I said to them, yeah, but I will never could put the rules I want there. I don't want to go this way. I say to them already. There I know that's a trap to go in, but they really was really pushing me
Mm.
to be something who
Mm.
speaking up to children.
Mm.
But still,
Mm.
I also have make so many mistakes. I'm
Mm.
as I say, you children growing up more healthy and my gonna grow up healthy
Mm.
because I don't have the healthy. Well, I have learned it after and try
Yeah.
now to get them
Yeah.
healthy,
Exactly.
but it's still difficult when they are adults.
Yeah. Yeah. That because that's a whole other situation. Because if you have adult children, then if you come back to the beginning of the different context between working with children or having children and working with adults or having adult children, now when the children move away from home, they don't anymore have to get in line. That's only when they are children.
Mm,
When they grow up and move out of the home, now they are moving into the other category, which is about alignment. And so now it becomes about you as a parent and they as adult children. How much can you get aligned in the world? And that will determine how close the relationship becomes between adult children and their parents. The thing about getting in line, it only applies when they are actual children. And then this big transition happens with 18 years of age, where they move out and you have to let them go as children. And then, if you're lucky, they come back as adult children, or let's just say adults. And then you have to redefine the whole relationship now, because now it's not a child and a parent. Now it's two adults that have to see if they can actually build something new in adulthood. Yeah.
mm. Really good to
It's
know
not
that.
easy.
No, but that was a very good way to say it. Can you say that one more time and explain it to
Yeah.
some,
So yeah,
someone
exactly.
who don't understand was in
Yeah.
lower,
So
someone.
I started to have these difference between being with adults and being with children. And
Mm-hmm,
when the children grow up and become adults, they move from being a child and into being adults. So now it's not an adult and a child. Now it's two adults. So the context is completely different than it was when they were actual children. So you as a parent need to approach it in a completely different way. So now it needs to be more about I'm working on myself, and the more I work on myself, the better the greater the opportunity to build good, healthy relationship with my adult children becomes. uh, the more I get to know myself and the more I release my own trauma. And then it doesn't really matter so much what happened when they were actual children, because now you're in a completely different context. And adults also have this ability to just forgive each other. It's much harder for children to do that. But adults, if we work through all of our grief and all of the trauma and everything, then we can just forgive each other, because we can see that we are all just adults and we're all just doing the best that we can with where we are and what the tools we have. Uh, yeah, and so something new, completely new becomes possible. Yeah,
but then, as because parents always say, "Oh, you will always be my child," so that
yeah,
is
that's yeah.
that's a rough word to use.
There's
Can
a
it
little
be?
bit of sentimentality in that statement, but
Mm,
I see it that of course you'll always be my child, but now you are an adult, so you are your own person. But when you were an actual child, you were my responsibility. But now you're not really my responsibility anymore. You're your own responsibility.
yeah, and that's what I still. That's interesting because I still feel I have big responsible,
Yeah,
but then I have to let go of that also.
I think so. There's some work there. Yeah, yeah.
No, but that's what you say. Like, is that what I
Mm,
hear you say? You have to let go
mm,
of. You don't have to responsible. There's
yeah.
many parents who think, oh, I must take this, or I must do this, or I must do that, or
Mm,
so. As a parents, you have to let go of. You don't have
yeah,
responsible anymore.
yeah. You actually have to do that. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
it's
wow.
not easy.
No, no. Tell a little more about that. I think that could be good for
Yeah,
people who have
because I think
adult children.
uh, when we're talking about order, what we're really talking about inside is that I, as a person, becomes the center of my own inner kingdom. I am in charge of my own life in my own inner kingdom. So the metaphor here becomes I become the king or the queen, if it's a female, of the inner kingdom. And what I model here is that my children are maybe like princes or princesses,
Mm,
and what they have to grow up to become their own kings and queens. But first, they have to actually grow up. And if everything goes as good as it can go, then when they are adults, now they are the center of their own inner kingdoms. And so now we are responding to each other as not as there are no more hierarchy between us. I am not above you anymore. Now we're completely equal because we sit on the throne of our inner kingdom. And then the next step from that is to see that there is an even higher order than the personal order here in this personal self, which is about now you're starting to surrender because now you have mastered the personal self. So then you can start to surrender it to an impersonal self, which is an even higher order. And then this feeling of all is well and nothing is really lost. So you see now that this sense of loss, it is kind of an illusion. We are putting too much emphasis and we are being too hard on ourselves as parents when it doesn't match up to our own expectations because all is basically well in the higher order, and the children come into this childhood structure because it's the best opportunity for them to grow up and learn what they need to learn on their journey, and we're only intersecting with our parents in about 18 to 20 years in an infinite universe of growth and learning. And so,
mm.
yeah,
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 that's a very
and so
interesting way
yeah,
to go
yeah,
out and see. That's someone you must write something about that. You must write an article about that. Yeah, because it's a whole new way to see. Because
yeah,
when I'm sitting and thinking about when I meet you, we are two adults.
mm.
So that is the same. Because you was
And
a
so,
child,
yeah,
I was a child, but when we meet each other, we don't thinking, oh, you was a child and I was a child. We are
yeah,
two
exactly.
adults meeting
Yeah,
each other.
that's yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
that's
and
good writing an article about it. Like, I think that, yeah, because that's a whole new level to see it.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and in this higher order, what I basically am is I'm a replacement holder. This personal order here is a replacement holder for the higher order. It's like a representation of the higher order in a lower form, which the children then grow up in this. They see, okay, there's a personal order, but they can sort of intuitively sense that there's an even higher order between that. And then when they grow up, they can shed the need for parental protection because they know now. So I'm sort of the middleman in a way, if that makes sense. And
Mm.
when the children grow up, they don't need the middleman anymore because now they can go in and see for themselves that everything is well in the divine order. But they had to grow up before that they can realize it. And when they grow up, they need a sort of helper in the father and the mother to help avoid all the pitfalls and get them to where they can become adults and start to surrender to a higher order in themselves. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
basically the essence of development in the family structure.
yeah, and that's why I have to be a whole new system. Yeah, because you can't integrate that if you have the whole healthy system from you was born.
Yeah, you can't go there then. The door, they lock
Mm-hmm.
until someone comes and says, breaks these patterns. And then the child is sort of the bully here. The bully basically dies. That's basically what happens. And then the child, the real child, is can be born. But the
Mm-hmm.
bully first have to die because the bully is based on shame, guilt, anxiety, desire, all of these things. And you can't build anything real from that ground. So the bully has to die, and then the child is born because the child can grow up to become an adult. The bully cannot grow up to become an adult, or the follower of the bully cannot grow up to become, or and yeah, exactly, yeah.
So the system have to die. Like
Yeah,
so,
develop. You can develop it a little bit.
but you have to break it down completely.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so because
Mm,
there is already an order. And you can always talk about, okay, we can do this better, we can do that better. But there is already an order in the way the school system is structured. Uh, and yeah, and if you break it down, then you just unleash chaos in the school
mm,
system. So I think instead of doing that, I would just keep developing it and keep
mm,
expanding it. The core of it is already okay, but there's room for so much more in these systems for expansion. Yeah, definitely, yes.
mm.
Yeah,
But you don't think there should be like a course for parents before they get parents, or
that could be a
mm,
very good thing to do. Yeah,
mm,
definitely.
mm,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can. Yeah, and also more support. So,
mm,
if social workers are who specialize in families, if they can put on this set of glasses and see, okay, this family is very, very close to collapsing because
mm,
the parents haven't slept for a year and a half, and they're stressed out of their minds and everything. So if they can see that, and then if they have the right tools, they can avoid the collapse.
mm,
If we go in, and but we have to do it not from a place of chaos or control. We have to do it from a place with this higher order, and then we can go in and do small things, and then the family system doesn't collapse, and then the family does not have to go in this terrible direction, but can actually go in the other direction. Yeah, so that a lot of things can be done with definitely, yeah, yeah,
mm. With love.
with love, exactly. Yeah, that's the key.
And
That's the
love is
key.
the key.
If you're coming from a loving intention, then you everything is possible, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. But I still believe this briefing need to be developable in the system.
Mm,
It's something we all need to find out. We must get into our life,
mm,
both our private life and in the kindergarten and the school, and
mm.
because
Yeah,
that's the
because if
big,
if
big
we're
thing.
asking what the children have to get in line of, the
Mm,
children they should not get in line behind shame or guilt or fear or anger. What they should get behind in line of is an order that's based in wholeness and love. That's
mm,
what the children are craving to get, but they have to have the opportunity to do so. And a lot of children don't have the opportunity to do so because there are no orderly people, orderly adults around them in their childhood. So they don't know what they are missing, basically.
Mm. Yeah, that's a long topic. This is part one. Going to take part two, three. Because we keep talking about like this with the briefing one day also
Yeah.
about children. So we're going to be like part because we can go into this enneagram also human
Mm.
design and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Mm,
Enneagram can be a very good tool to see
mm,
what Enneagram type is this specific child. And then I
mm,
can model my approach to the child based on the understanding of the Enneagram. So, for instance, just very briefly, so a
mm,
seven child who is very wild and has a lot of high energy, or let's say a four child, which is very emotional, my approach to these two children should be very different because they are very different children. So yeah, it can be a very good tool to model your approach, how you go into a relationship with them.
mm. But
Yeah,
then
definitely.
I hear when you say that, then all who working in kindergarten and school, they need to have a psychotherapist or enneagram with them. Hmm?
Yeah, I think it would help.
That will, yeah, that will. They need to have that. I feel that when I hear what you say, they need to have that because then they start understanding because the school teacher or what you call it,
Mm,
pedagogue, how you call it, pedagogue,
mm.
I don't know.
Yeah, social worker that yeah
The
works with
social worker,
children. Yeah,
they
yeah.
also are in the same spinning.
Mm,
So they should also have take a education in psychotherapist
mm.
or
Yeah,
enneagram or something because they need
yeah,
to have cleansing up before they have working with these children.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And create their own order. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
that should be the that should be the next things, as you say. If we can
mm,
keep the system, but the deliverable, I don't know
yeah.
how you say that,
Build on
growing the
it.
system,
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
then them who working with them should have all the skills.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah, it will definitely make them more effective in their work.
mm,
Yeah, and yeah,
mm.
and stronger as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yes, I think
That
you have
was
too
th
much. Yes, that
that
was.
was it. That was it for me for today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we just closing this off and stay
Yeah.
tuned back. But I want to just make three briefing I have learned. Instead, we say always to people when they are or take 10 deep breaths. But I actually learn it's better to take say to them breath in and then counting to 10, and then we do
Okay.
that before we closing off.
Okay.
So I'm
That's
one, two,
yeah.
three.
Let's do
Then
that.
we and then we breathing in, and I do with my finger one, two, three.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do
Then
that.
we
That's a
can
very good
also see
idea.
it on your body, and
Yeah.
we can so one, two, three. Breathe in, and then again one, two, three, and the last one, two, three. Thank you so much for staying tuned with us. We're coming back and subscribe and comment on if you want some questions to answer. We open for that. You can write hey, but that's not what our show is about. It's about writing something you want to let us talk more deep about, or if you have a question, write in the comment and you can always find Andrea in his work. He's a psychotherapist and I am a sexual therapist, sensual vitality therapist. So yeah. So are you ready to wake up? Then we are here to support you. We are the messenger because we have go so much work by ourselves. It's a journey. So thank you. Be better parents. Stay tuned and see you in another show. You do.